This is Once Upon a Crime, and I'm your host, Esther. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe for more true crime stories. We're continuing with our series on serial killer Ted Bundy. This is part 3 of Ted Bundy for the Defense, Bundy Unhinged. When Ted Bundy slipped through the ceiling of the Garfield County Jail in Aspen during his first escape, it stunned authorities. But it was his second escape that would change everything. December 30th, 1977. It was bitterly cold in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Snow had been falling steadily that week, blanketing the mountains in white. Inside the jail, Bundy was being held in a small cell, awaiting trial for the murder of Karen Campbell. Just before the new year, while guards were distracted, Bundy made his move. He had been losing weight intentionally, doing sit-ups, skipping meals, shrinking his body inch by inch. That night, he climbed onto his bed, slipped into the ceiling crawl space, and wriggled through a hole so tight it scraped his back and hips raw. He dropped down into the jailer's apartment, empty for the holidays, changed into street clothes, and simply walked out the front door. By the time anyone realized he was gone, Ted Bundy was already on the road. He found an MG Midget parked nearby. The keys were in the ignition. He slid behind the wheel and drove into the snowy Colorado night. He didn't get far. About 30 miles out, the little sports car became stuck in deep snow from the storm. Bundy abandoned it and began hitchhiking towards Vail. $500 in cash stuffed in his pocket, money he'd carefully hidden away for just such this moment. In Vail, he tried to charm rides out of strangers in the lobby of a Holiday Inn, telling anyone who would listen that his car had broken down. No one took him up on it. For once, Ted Bundy was not persuasive. Reluctantly, he spent some of his precious cash on a bus ticket. From Vail to Denver, from Denver to Chicago, boarding a commercial flight at a time when airline security was little more than a ticket and a smile. By the time jail personnel in Colorado realized Bundy was missing, he was already in Chicago. From there, he boarded a train to Ann Arbor, Michigan. He had always been drawn to college towns. They provided energy, anonymity, and most importantly for Bundy, young women. In Ann Arbor, he checked into a YMCA near the University of Michigan campus. He altered his appearance. He shaved off his beard and cut his hair short. On January 2nd, he sat in a college bar watching the Rose Bowl and drank until he vomited. The fugitive law student who once prided himself on discipline and control was unraveling. He searched for a car to steal. It took him 2 days to find one. When he finally did, he drove it south to Atlanta, Georgia. He wiped it down, erased his fingerprints, and ditched it. Then he boarded a bus to Tallahassee, Florida. He arrived January 4th, 1978. Under the name Chris Hagen, Bundy rented a furnished room near the Florida State University campus, 4 blocks from the Chi Omega sorority house. He began stealing almost immediately. He stole a bicycle, a typewriter, a portable television, a transistor radio, a license plate, cash from women's purses, and food from grocery stores. He stole a student ID card belonging to Kenneth Meisner, and used the stolen typewriter to draft a request for Meisner's birth certificate, always planning his next alias. And at night, he returned to a familiar ritual. He prowled. Saturday, January 14th, 1978. The temperature had dipped below freezing in Tallahassee that night. Bundy dressed carefully in tan pants, a dark blue jacket, and a dark knit cap. Beneath his clothes, he wore a second set, so he could shed one identity and walk away as someone else. He carried 3 pairs of women's pantyhose, 2 fashioned into ligatures, 1 into a mask. Around 9 p.m., he began following a group of young women walking on campus. They noticed him, and they quickened their pace. "Hey girls," he called out. They ran. At 9:15, he circled the ground floor apartment of Cheryl Thomas, a 21-year-old FSU student studying dance. She lived alone, 10 blocks from his rented room. When Cheryl left her apartment that evening, Bundy slipped inside and cracked a window to provide himself with easy access later. Then he walked back towards his room, passing the Chi Omega sorority house at 661 West Jefferson Street. Next door was Sharon's nightclub, packed with students. Bundy entered. Witnesses later said he looked out of place. He was older, dressed in dark clothing and a knit cap. He stood stiffly with his arms folded, staring at women on the dance floor. He was not charming. He was not smiling. He was just staring. Women described him as creepy and like an ex-convict. The mask had slipped. Years earlier, Carol Durant described watching his face transform from friendly to something dark and chilling when she resisted him. Witnesses backstage the night Debbie Kent disappeared recalled the man pacing, breathing heavily. Now in Tallahassee, that same darkness hovered just beneath the surface. After midnight, January 15th, Bundy returned to Cheryl Thomas's apartment. A light was on. She was home. He decided to wait until she was asleep. He went back to his room and drank. At 1:15 a.m., he startled another student, Cheryl Rafferty, a block from the Chi Omega house. He followed her. She ran into a campus building and escaped. Just after 3 a.m., Bundy picked up a heavy oak log from a woodpile near the Chi Omega house. He entered through the back door. It was either unlocked or the lock wasn't working. Inside, most of the residents were asleep. Bundy moved swiftly to the second floor. Margaret Bowman, 21, slept alone in her room. Her roommate was away. He beat her with the oak log, crushing her skull, then strangled her with a pantyhose ligature. In his haste, he dropped one of the ligatures onto the empty bed beside her. He pulled the bedspread over her body and left. In the next room, Karen Chandler and Kathy Kleiner were asleep. He attacked both women almost simultaneously, breaking their jaws, shattering facial bones, leaving blood splattered across the walls and ceiling. He then crossed the hall to Lisa Levy's room. He beat her, strangled her, bit her repeatedly, leaving distinct teeth marks. He sexually assaulted her in a final act of degradation. All of it happened in minutes. Downstairs around 3 a.m., 20-year-old Nita Neary returned to the house. She noticed the back door was unlocked and secured it behind her. She heard a thump from upstairs. Then, heavy footsteps descended the stairs. She froze as a man crouched near the front door, carrying what looked like a club. She saw his profile, long straight nose, thin lips. He left. Moments later, chaos erupted. Karen Chandler stumbled out of her room, her face covered in blood. Kathy Kleiner lay moaning. Margaret Bowman was dead. Lisa Levy would be pronounced dead at the hospital. Police were called at 3:22 a.m. 4 women were attacked. 2 were dead. 2 were gravely injured. All in less than 20 minutes. But Bundy wasn't finished. He walked the few blocks to Cheryl Thomas's apartment and climbed through the window he had cracked open earlier. He knocked over a plant, waking her. He beat her savagely. Cheryl managed to cry out. Her friends next door heard the attack and called her phone. The ringing startled Bundy. He fled. He left behind the pantyhose mask, with his hairs tangled inside it. Cheryl survived even after suffering 5 skull fractures, a broken jaw, and a dislocated shoulder. She would have permanent hearing loss and loss of equilibrium. Her dance career ended. When Tallahassee woke to the horror of the carnage that had taken place overnight, Ted Bundy returned to his rooming house and stood on the porch, staring towards campus like a man in a trance. This was not the composed predator of Lake Sammamish, who once returned home for hamburgers with his girlfriend after murder. He was fraying. His rent was overdue. Police presence intensified. He needed distance. On February 5th, he stole a white van and headed towards Jacksonville. He purchased meals with stolen credit cards, favoring Holiday Inn restaurants. He bought an 8-inch hunting knife at a sporting goods store. He attempted to lure 14-year-old Leslie Ann Parmenter from her Jacksonville middle school. Unshaven with dirty hair and wearing a fake fire department jacket, He startled her. Her older brother intervened and noted the license plate. 2 days later, on February 7th, Bundy saw 12-year-old Kimberly Leach walking across the lawn of Lake City Junior High. A witness saw a man pulling her by the arm toward a van. He assumed it was her father. It wasn't. Bundy sexually assaulted her in the van and slit her throat with a hunting knife. He left her body in a remote hog pen near a state park. Her remains would not be found for nearly 2 months. On February 10th, Bundy was placed on the FBI's most wanted list. And astonishingly, he returned to Tallahassee. He even asked a woman from his rooming house out to dinner. They enjoyed steak and champagne and returned to his room to watch television afterward. This was classic Bundy, returning to a life of normalcy after his demons had been satisfied. Yet, they weren't completely appeased. The next morning, Bundy was caught trying to steal another car. He fled on foot. On February 12th, he succeeded, this time an orange 1972 Volkswagen Beetle, his vehicle of choice. Bundy must have thought the tide was turning in his favor. He could not be more wrong. He drove the VW to Pensacola, but not before removing the vehicle's back seat, a strategy he'd employed to his advantage in the Pacific Northwest. But this would only provide investigators with more evidence to use against him later. On February 14th, he spent the day drinking on the beach. At 1:30 a.m., February 15th, Officer David Lee spotted the VW parked behind a closed business. The license plate came back stolen. Lee ordered the driver out of the car. Ted Bundy complied. As Lee began to cuff him, Bundy rolled, struck the officer, and ran. Shots were fired. Bundy fell, uninjured but afraid. He fought for the officer's gun. Lee struck him in the face with it. Backup arrived. After 46 days on the run, Ted Bundy was in custody. On the ride to jail, he said, "I wish you had killed me back there." Some have wondered if Bundy chose Florida because it carried the death penalty. Years earlier, he had asked his attorney which states actually executed prisoners. The answer? Florida and Texas. Was this a self-destructive act? Or simply the final arena for a man who needed control, even over his own ending? In custody, he initially gave a false name, Kenneth Raymond Meisner. But fingerprints told the truth. When Tallahassee detectives questioned him about the Chi Omega murders, he said, "The evidence is there. Look for it." Bundy, now caught, exhausted, and with the adrenaline of the murders behind him, began to crack. He called his old girlfriend, Liz Klopfer, and spoke with her for over an hour. During the call, he made guarded, incriminating statements to her regarding the Chi Omega murders, not actually admitting to the crimes. He told Liz that he was sick and consumed with something he didn't understand, and that he, quote, couldn't contain it. He said he felt like he had a disease, like alcoholism. Like an alcoholic could never take another drink, Bundy said, it was something he just couldn't be around, and he knew it now. Liz asked him what that something was. Bundy answered, "Don't make me say it." He told investigators he had a problem. He said he felt like a vampire, but he refused to answer directly about Kimberly Leach. When pressed, he said quietly, "I cannot do that to you because the sight is too horrible to look at." For a moment, it seemed as if he might confess. But after rest and consultation, the old Ted Bundy returned. He began bargaining, offering information in exchange for being sent back to Washington. "I have the answers," he said, "and they're mine, for me to give." Florida prosecutors had no intention of letting him go. They were seeking the death penalty. And Ted Bundy, cocky, underprepared, and armed with less than 2 years of law school, decided he would help run his own defense. His ego would not allow him to sit quietly. It would ultimately seal his fate. In the next episode, we step inside the courtroom. You'll hear about the plea deal he rejected, the cross-examination that stunned observers, and the moment Ted Bundy realized that his performance could not save him from Florida's electric chair. That story will be told in our fourth and final installment of Ted Bundy for the defense. If you want to continue this series, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part. And if you prefer to listen on the go, you can find Once Upon a Crime wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Once Upon a Crime Podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.